As we know, El Salvador made history by being the first country in the world to adopt Bitcoin as legal tender. Does this mean now that Bitcoin can be universally accepted as a currency? Or should we still define cryptocurrencies as anything but? Steve Hanke, professor of applied economics at Johns Hopkins University, is here to discuss that and monetary policy in China and his update on gold. Professor, welcome back.
Good to be with you, David.
Three big topics to cover today, Professor. We'll start off by talking about Bitcoin. As you know, El Salvador made waves in the headlines in recent weeks by being the first country to introduce Bitcoin as legal tender. Now, you had tweeted about this. We're going to show your tweet in just a bit. But first, how would you interpret the news? You and I have spoken about Bitcoin before, and you had said that Bitcoin is not a currency. And you've listed many reasons as to why. You've listed many definitions of currencies, all of which Bitcoin has failed to meet. Does this news change your perception of Bitcoin as a currency at all?
It doesn't change my perception at all of Bitcoin. It does indicate that the president and the congressman who voted for adopting Bitcoin in El Salvador as legal tender are, in a word, stupid. They've entered the Hanke's Dictionary of Economic Stupidity. And the reason for that is El Salvador is one of the three Latin American countries that is officially dollarized. In other words, Panama, Ecuador, and El Salvador are the three, and they don't have a local currency. They use the US dollar. So they use the premier international currency in the world right now. So now they're adding on legal tender status for Bitcoin. And the reason for this is dark forces clearly are behind this, and that is the criminal element. And the reason for that is that the criminal element wants to be able to get in and actually obtain real legal tender, greenbacks. They want greenbacks, and greenbacks are, in fact, the legal tender and money in El Salvador. So the reason this is so stupid is that the vulnerability now of El Salvador increases massively because they are dollarized. And what happens if everybody in Russia that is holding Bitcoin, or China, or you name it, Iran, want to cash out and obtain greenbacks that they actually can use to buy things? They will suck up all the dollars in El Salvador like a vacuum cleaner going through there, and the economy will collapse. So that's why it's so stupid.
Well, El Salvador is not, are you suggesting that this move is going to accelerate any economic downturn that El Salvador is already facing?
It'll not only accelerate it, it has the potential to completely collapse the economy, because all the dollars in El Salvador could be vacuumed up and there'd be no money in the country. They don't have a domestic currency. They use the US dollar. That is the currency in El Salvador.
How would that work? How would the mechanics of what you described work?
You take the Bitcoin to an ATM, and of course, with an 8% charge, there's a pretty hefty fee to go to an ATM, but you just suck up all the dollars, all the cash, dollar cash that's available in El Salvador. That's how it works. All the cash in El Salvador that's in dollars, which is the only cash they have, could be sucked up in a short matter of time.
All right, let's elaborate on that for just a bit. And you actually made a tweet about this. You said El Salvador President Nayib Bukele claims it's cheaper to send remittances via Bitcoin to ELSL than by traditional alternatives. This is a big lie. To send $200 via Western Union, where MoneyGram costs 0 to 4%, to cash out Bitcoin at an ATM in ELSL, it costs 8% on average. Okay, well, I mean, isn't the whole point of sending remittances through with Bitcoin to reduce costs down to zero? Like to
No,
exchange.
no, no. This is nonsensical. What you're getting into. If Grandma is down in El Salvador waiting for her remittances, and you want to send it with Bitcoin, that's
Right.
fine. What'd she do? She has to go to the ATM to get dollars because that's the only way you can buy something.
But that's the whole point of legalizing Bitcoin as legal tender, right? She can now go to the store and buy her groceries with Bitcoin,
Yeah,
presumably.
lots of luck. Lots of luck. You're on a
So you're
different
saying that
planet.
won't happen?
No, no. There's no way it's going to happen. Period. Bitcoin is not used in day-to-day transactions for all practical purposes. A tiny amount of transactions are actually used. So Grandma is going to have big problems.
Right. Okay. So walk us through the logic here. So the country has legalized Bitcoin to be used as legal tender, but you're saying in practice, in practicality, it will not be used as legal tender. Why is that? I mean, a lot of people in El Salvador don't even have bank accounts. Why? Yeah.
Look at put that chart up again. It cost an arm and a leg. It cost you 8% to get the money out. No, it cost you 8% to get greenbacks, and greenbacks is what's going to be used. You're not going to pay for your taxi ride with a Bitcoin. It's ridiculous.
Okay. All right.
It's just not going to happen. You've got 70% of the people in El Salvador don't even have bank accounts.
That's
and now you tell me they're going to be using cryptocurrencies and so forth. This is just fantastic.
Do you think that other countries, maybe in Latin America or abroad, developing regions, could follow suit and take in El Salvador's model?
Oh, they're already talking about this in Paraguay and even Panama. Paraguay isn't dollarized, but it's a haven for criminal activity, as everyone knows. Historically, it has been.
Mm-hmm.
So there are a lot of dark forces in Paraguay that are pushing the politicians to adopt Bitcoin as legal tender, and you got the same thing going on in Panama, big time. They haven't done it yet, but the dark forces in Latin America and elsewhere are very busy, and they did con the president of El Salvador, as well as over 60 congressmen and women to vote this thing through in El Salvador.
Yeah.
Which, as I say, is just a great economic stupidity and could be very tragic, actually. Because the scenario, the vacuum cleaning scenario that I gave you is a real possibility.
Okay. Let me ask you this a different way. Former President Donald Trump was on Fox Business, I think last week or the week before that, and he talked about Bitcoin. The anchor asked him about Bitcoin, and he said, it seems like a scam. It just seems like a scam, he said. First of all, do you agree with him? And if you do you think the president of El Salvador is being quote unquote scammed?
Well, I wouldn't put it in the category of scam. I've always categorized Bitcoin and all the cryptos as highly speculative assets, and of course that's exactly why the Basel Group, the central bankers club in Basel, Switzerland, has indicated that they're going to require very heavy capital requirements on any financial institutions that take in Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. Because it's very risky. It's just a risky speculative asset. It is not a currency. It's a very risky speculative asset. So you can call it a scam if you want to. I wouldn't call it a scam. I'd just say it's a very speculative asset. And let me remind you, I said this on your program the first time, its fundamental value is zero. Mm-hmm. So Bitcoin will face competition and will eventually see its value be driven down considerably over where it is right now.
in theory, Professor, are speculative assets and currencies just mutually exclusive things? I mean, can something be both? Well, one could argue there's Forex traders speculating on the dollar, right?
Right. I mean, you have speculators and hedgers in the currency market.
Sure.
Some of them are hedging and some are speculating. But we have some currencies that are legal tender are literally nothing more than speculative assets, and they're mainly worthless assets. Look at the Bolivar in Venezuela. That's a highly speculative asset. It's also a worthless asset. It's lost over 98% of its value since January of 2020. But it's not the only one. I mean, the Lebanese pound is a highly speculative asset. Wherever you have parallel markets, where you have an official exchange rate and a black market exchange rate, you know the currency is a highly speculative asset, even though it is a currency. Look at the Zimbabwe dollar. That's another big time worthless piece of junk. It is legal tender. It is the currency of Zimbabwe. But what's the currency in fact that people want to use? The US dollar. And why is there such a massive gap between the official exchange rate and the black market exchange rate for the Zimbabwe dollar? Because it's a highly speculative asset that's essentially worthless.
So final question, Professor. We'll move on to monetary policy now. So you're saying that Bitcoin cannot be considered a currency because even though it's legal tender down in El Salvador, they won't use it. Well, let's just suppose one day people do start buying their things, their everyday items with Bitcoin. Would you then accept the notion that it is somewhat a currency? It's a method of payment. If that day does come.
You're posing a hypothetical, and I just don't really want to answer it. I'm a realist. I live in the real world. That's the planet I'm on.
Okay.
Any of these voodoo characters that are waving around cryptos are just that. I mean, what can I say? I mean, it isn't used. The big problem with cryptos in general is that you can't convert them into actual real legal tender that's usable cheaply and quickly. And what do I mean by that? You can't convert Bitcoin, for example, cheaply and easily into US dollars, pound sterling, euros, and legal tender that you can use in a store easily. That's the problem, and that's why they're not. That's why they're speculative assets. That's all. They're still just speculative assets.